What's up, everybody? This is the N.E.R.D. Film and TV podcast. I will be your host this week, Dominic Spizzeri, with my co-host and drastically out of sync, Kayla Smith. How you doing today?
We're drastically out of sync, but we're here, and I'm not sick anymore, so that's nice.
Oh yeah, you've been sick the entire week, and my house lost power all
Oh
last
my god.
week. I had no water, no electricity, and because of that, I pretty much haven't watched anything new. So this week, we're pretty much not going to be talking about really anything when it comes to reviews and TV shows. So we're going to have a very news-heavy episode, kind of a opinion-heavy episode, and stuff like that. So it's going to be a little different for us this week, but we're playing with the elements that we've had to deal with for the last week. And also, just on a side note, we were trying to figure out any sync. So if Kayla's out of sync, we spent a good 30 minutes trying to fix it all together. So we do apologize for the video listeners, those of you on YouTube. Hopefully by next episode, we'll have that all figured out. So other than that, on this week's episode, we're going to dive into something that we've kind of avoided for a little while. And that is a certain actress by the name of Amber Heard. And for those of you who really aren't in the kind of know of it, Amber Heard is the ex-wife of Johnny Depp, or are they still married?
They've divorced now.
They're divorced. All right. Amber Heard is the ex-wife of Johnny Depp. And it was kind of a very dramatic fallout. And I know, Kayla, you're going to dive right into it and give all of the latest news and kind of more of a timeline of events, because I know you have a lot of specific opinions about it. But the reason why we're bringing it up today is because on July 30th, David Walensky of GameSpot put out an article saying that Aquaman 2 filmmakers wouldn't remove Amber Heard because of Johnny Depp fans. For those of you who, again, just kind of a quick little rundown, Johnny Depp's career has kind of taken a turn for the worse because of the drama with his ex-wife, including being labeled as a wife beater at one point. Is that correct, Kayla?
There are still people who think he's a wife beater.
And then I know you're going to get more into it, but it looks like he was kind of falsely accused as a wife beater. It's not.
This is not a situation that is very clearly black and white.
Uh,
Which, if I'm quick timeline rundown, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard get married. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard decide to get divorced. And throughout the course of the divorce proceedings, Amber Heard came forward and stated that he did a lot of really horrible things to her, one of which was physically abusing her, mentally, emotionally abuse. He was mentally and emotionally abusive, lots of screaming matches. And throughout the course of this divorce proceeding, she stated that she would not take a penny from her $7 million settlement from this, and that all of it would go to charity. And throughout all of this, Johnny Depp was fighting this. This was all coming up during the Me Too movement as well, and Time's Up. And there were a lot of people who thought that she was very brave. And then we find out that she is in the 2 to 3% who is just lying, quite frankly. But it's not not as clear as, yes, he never hit her. It appears to be that any abuse that was done to her by Johnny Depp was in self-defense or in retaliation to things that she had already done to him. So the main abuser is not Johnny in this situation, it's Amber. The frustrating part for Johnny Depp fans, and for anybody who cares about the Me Too, Time's Up, making sure that abusers are found and properly taken care of in our criminal justice system, is that we got the wrong person, and that the wrong person is being held accountable for something that should not be on him. He is a survivor. He is somebody who is trying to live through this. He was defending himself as far as we know. I'm not going to totally get into the entire I don't think that he should not be entirely held responsible for this. I think that it is completely ridiculous that he was let go from his Warner Brothers contract when Amber Heard is still on set filming Aquaman 2, which is what you're about to get into.
Yeah. Since this whole situation kind of started, there's been a lot of petitions, specifically with the fans, kind of saying, "Hey, Johnny Depp should be getting his role back, specifically for Fantastic Beasts 3, and that Amber Heard should be let go, or at least seen some kind of consequence for her actions,
Mhm.
and be let go from the Aquaman 2 set." So kind of to what I was getting to with the article by David Walensky of GameSpot. To read a little bit more into it, according to producers, the creative team behind the upcoming Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom gave no credence whatsoever to the online petition calling on Warner Brothers to remove actor Amber Heard from the movie. Indeed, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom began production on July 19th, and Heard is reprising her role as the Atlantean Queen Mira. The public appeal was another one of these things that makes you question what the internet is ultimately good for. Heard has characterized the appeal previously as a paid campaign investigated by fans of her ex-husband Johnny Depp, who previously was asked to back from his role in Fantastic Beasts 3 after a UK tabloid called him a wife beater. So it seems like the producers just think it's a joke and it's not to be taken seriously. They seem to obviously be taking the side of Amber Heard, just judging by this article.
Yes. And this is where my blood starts boiling, quite frankly, because, she's saying that this is a paid smear campaign by Johnny Depp fans, that there is no evidence that they're the ones investigating this matter. And the fact of the matter is that if you can Google this information because it's public record,
Hmm.
and there are photos and there is proof of some of the things that she did to him. Um, and the fact that people are still treating this like she's the victim it's completely mind-blowing to me. And I do not I'm not a fan of cancel culture, and Johnny Depp getting blacklisted in this situation is completely mind-blowing. But in this situation, this isn't about the Twitterverse. This is about the fact that the wrong person is being held accountable here. Um, she Warner Brothers doesn't care that there's clear proof, light as day, that this woman has obviously abused her husband. I understand that this is a really difficult situation. I may have mentioned this on a previous podcast, but I used to volunteer for a program which helped support men and women both, who had been sexually assaulted, physically abused, gotten out of bad situations, help them, counsel them through that. And I understand that, for men, it's a lot harder to get justice because we live in a patriarchal society. And I don't like saying that, but we live in this patriarchal society where we don't necessarily, it's not as easy for us to believe that a man could be abused by his wife, because can't he defend himself? And this is such a clear indication of, you can be in a relationship and you can be a man and be getting beat up by your wife. And this is a very clear example of a man is not being believed because nobody wants to believe that a woman can beat up a man.
You could be 100% right on that one. This is obviously such a heated topic, and it's tough on my end. Obviously, I am a white male. I am the bottom of the totem pole of I'm allowed to talk about this without getting criticized. And let's be honest here. If I wasn't on the show with you, I would not be talking about this subject. I would be staying clear from it, only talking about an article and not giving any opinion whatsoever. So,
Right.
I mean, judging by everything, like I'm hearing you say, and the few times I've read about this, it definitely shows like I think this is a story ultimately about cancel culture. Obviously, I'm I'm never a fan of it. I definitely believe
Mm.
that there's no reason to completely destroy some. I mean, in some cases, yes, but in most cases, I definitely think that there can be redemption. People can learn from saying bad things. I mean, look at James Gunn. He said a few bad things, but I think there is some kind of redemption we can have from that. Um,
Yeah.
and then you have obviously other situations where you have Bill Cosby, who is just all right. That's completely different. He's a monster, and the man should be in jail. Um,
Right.
and I know we can't. He is now alleged, but that's a whole separate topic to get into. But in this kind of situation, like it's what I have to agree with you is that if all of this stuff is true, and that maybe she was of the abusive one and he was kind of being more self-defense, then yes, I think this is a time where we have to look at cancel culture and say, you got it wrong. Like, I'm not opposed to them letting go of an actor because they are physically or verbally violent. I don't blame them. I know there was a set time where Tom Cruise started screaming at the crew. I feel like if that was to happen today, he would be let go, and he should be let go on the spot. Like, I don't care what kind of actor you are. I don't care how much millions of money you are. You could be at the oh my god, Tony Stark. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Oh, Robert Downey
Thank
Jr.
you.
Yeah,
You
he
could
was
yeah.
he was very, very, very sick
Oh yeah.
and
But
very violent.
that was back then, right? Like he's
Right.
not yeah. But like even if you are him, because obviously he's beloved, everybody loves him. Like if he was to act like, in my opinion, like how Tom Cruise did, even he should be again let go on the spot. Like there's no reason to work with them. And I just overall I just really do agree. Like this is a situation where I think they did get it wrong. I don't want this to become a thing where it's because like she's the woman and people are believing the woman aspect of the story, because I don't want it to turn into that, because I mean, let's be honest, in most of these situations it usually is the man that is the abusive one. But in most situations, I feel like in most situations it is, I think we all can agree to that. But I think in this situation that yeah, I think you're probably dead on the money that people do look at this and go, you know, well, he probably did do it. And I think Warner Brothers is just being defensive, probably just to be politically correct, in my opinion.
Well, they've been I mean, there's been mounting and mounting and mounting evidence against her, and there have been multiple petitions to have Amber Heard removed from the movie, and I have to wonder if this is just them having backed the horse for so long.
Yeah.
Like, they have so actively defended her that they must there must be I have to imagine that there's a feeling that if they were to take a stand now, that would not look good on them. And I I don't know. It's, they're saying that this isn't about, like, this is we're not going to let the Twitterverse tell us how we're going to tell the story. And this isn't about, you shouldn't listen to the Twitterverse. You shouldn't. Like, you, we we don't know how movies get made. But this is asking this woman to be held accountable for very clear evidence.
Oh,
And
exactly.
Johnny Depp, if Johnny Depp did hit Amber Heard, even in defense, that's not good. He is being held accountable for his actions. And the last thing that I kind of want to get on with this whole Amber Heard train, and we don't know enough information about this yet, so I can't speak to a lot of this, but Johnny did finally get um, a court case for them to do discovery into whether or not she actually donated the $7 million that she said she donated. And the fact that that is admissible in court at all just blows my mind. So you're going to claim that you were abused. You're going to promise in court that you're going to donate every penny of that $7 million settlement to the ACLU and to the Children's Hospital LA. And now there's enough evidence that you didn't donate that money. So now you're a liar and you're stealing from people who need the money. After you said you promised. Like, that just it blows it blows my mind. And I sincerely hope, I really and well and truly hope that they discover that every penny of that $7 million that she promised did go to those foundations,
Mhm.
because there are people who need that money. And quite frankly, Amber Heard doesn't need another $7 million in her pocket. Like, these people live on a completely different universe than, you or I live on. Um, $7 million makes a massive difference to those people. That's another drop in the bucket for her. I mean, it just, how selfish can you be at that point? I,
I don't know. And again, this is just this entire situation is a weird one. I think most
Mhm.
people just want, kind of like you said, just want everyone to be treated fairly. And if Johnny Depp did do something wrong, he definitely has paid for it. And then Amber Heard sounds like hasn't, and that's kind of just you know the end game here. I think
Right.
all in all, if there was ever a producer or somebody at Warner Brothers listening to this, I hope someone, if one of the big wigs here, it's like at the end of the day, like, we don't hate you, just please do the right thing. Always consider, just consider everyone's actions, and I think
Well, you
all actors should be treated not like the superstars they are. I really think they should always just be always humanize them more. Bring them down a peg. And I don't know. This is such a obviously a tougher situation. You were saying something?
Oh, right. Like, this is not clear cut. This is not black and white. And I was gonna say, I wanted to round this off on this conversation off on a slightly happier note. I
Right.
truly believe that everybody deserves redemption, that
Hmm.
there are people who, we incarcerate people who have committed sexual assault. We incarcerate people who are abusers. And it's really important that we work on rehabilitating them, because nobody thinks about the after effect. And you want to talk about a great comeback story. You mentioned RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., a
Right.
man who was very he was very alcoholic. He was addicted to drugs. I believe he was physically and verbally abusive to people on sets, to his family members and whatnot. And he got the help that he needed. He took a step back. His career went down the toilet. And then Marvel took a chance on him, gave him Iron Man, and he has completely turned his life around. And he absolutely deserves the success that he's gotten. I would love to see some of these people that are being held accountable now come back as strongly as he comes back. And I would love to see that for Amber Heard. I would love to see that for Johnny Depp. But before they can get there, they need to be held accountable first.
And I agree with you. But till then, there's ultimately not much more we can really say of the story. As it boils down, we'll dive more into it as we get some updates. If not, the end of the story may just be Aquaman 2 is out. And I know that's actually a movie you're looking forward to. Is that something you're still going to watch despite all this?
I have a lot of feelings about Aquaman 2. Okay, so you and I disagree on this, and I know a lot of people do. So if you guys disagree with me on this, that's fine. I don't care.
Oh yeah, it's
I
not a
don't
good movie.
care. I don't care that it's not the best movie in the world. I had so much fun, and I did not want to go see it. My boyfriend did. Paul's favorite superhero is Aquaman, and I'm like, it's a dude. He looks ridiculous in the comics. Like, justified. Like, I will admit, he looks ridiculous. The orange and the green, and I really, really enjoyed the first movie. I had so much fun. It made me feel like as whisked away as kind of like National Treasure did when I was a kid. Like, I felt like I was on an adventure the whole time, and I really enjoyed Jason Momoa, and I really loved Amber Heard as Mira, which is part of what makes this so frustrating for me now. Um, I don't know if I will be willing to give money to this movie, and that's what breaks my heart.
Well, the good news is
Because
that you already have H
yes, I've
H
already I've already put money in
HBO
Jason Momoa's
Max.
pocket. Oh, will it be on HBO Max?
Yeah, there's no as of right now, according to the same article. It says it's heading to HBO Max, but oh, never mind. They're talking about a separate article. They're talking about a separate animation series. Hold on, let me see the release date for this movie.
Okay. So while he's looking that up, I mean, if Aquaman 2 comes onto HBO Max, I already paid a subscription for that. So I guess I'm already, putting what is it, like $10 or $15 in HBO's pockets every month anyway. So I may watch it then. But I absolutely will not be going to theaters and helping project this movie. I might even wait the 30 days and just wait until they give it for free, because I really don't like the idea of helping give this movie more traction when there's been so much active strife. And I think that the only way that we can, as a people who would like to see Amber Heard removed, the only way that we can show them that they needed to do this is if the outing is abysmal. If they show up in the first week and they do not make the box office like top 10 or whatever it is. Um,
Well, as of right now, it's scheduled for December 2022. Obviously, that can change. Who knows where the world's going to be at that point? Judging by the first
right.
movie, it's probably going to do pretty well. Obviously,
Yeah.
Jason Momoa is well liked, and most people probably don't know about the whole Amber Heard thing. Um, so obviously, you have over a year. We have a year and a half to be more precise, to kind of see how this blows over. So we got some time. Who knows? Maybe by the time it comes out, hopefully this is a happier ending, and you can see a movie that you're probably going to be looking forward to, and I'll be avoiding it just simply because I didn't like the first one. But
Conversation for a different day.
I know
Oof. One day
someday.
we'll get into the DCEU, you and I, and that'll be a bloodbath, man.
Long live Martha. All right.
You know what? I actually, brief tangent. I was talking to my friend this weekend and I was like, yeah, Dominic, he hasn't gotten to our episode yet from last week, because like he said Martha's the strongest person in the MC or the DCEU, and he goes, well, yeah, she's the only one who stopped a war between two gods. I felt like I was having deja vu.
See,
That's
people don't get
exactly
it.
what he said.
Y'all make fun of genius writing, all right? It's just the mention of her name is enough to end a war. That is true fear, all right? The people from Don't Breathe and all the other movies that just came out, they can learn a lesson from Batman versus Superman.
Right.
It's greatest writing ever. But speaking of movies coming out into theaters, our kind of next big, not really big news topic, this is kind of a smaller news topic, but it has been officially announced that the next Marvel movie, that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, is going to be theaters only. It is not going to be on Disney Early Access, and I am
Happy.
sad about that. I am so upset. Now, granted, I know, Kayla, you're all like theaters for the win. I love going downstairs. I love making my own popcorn, watching my own movie in my comfort. I don't have to deal with anything. $30 is ridiculous, and it's way too expensive to watch these movies in your own home. But I am a little disappointed by this, and it's obviously I'm kind of a proponent still a little bit. I know everyone wants to get back to the theaters, and of course I do too. I want to be outside. But obviously, with the Delta variant going around and the cases skyrocketing, and I know where we're from, there's talking about shutdowns again and everything like that. Um, I can't help but feel like, hey, this is kind of a bad move on Disney's part. I personally don't think it's smart. I think this movie should still come out in early access. I think they should give us a break and make it $20. But I I think this is a bad move, and it's not something I'm particularly excited for. Am I going to see it in a theater and be a total hypocrite? I'm going to tell you right now, yes. All right, I'm going to do it. I have a local theater that no one really goes to. It's really tiny, and I can go in there and I'll be comfortable and I'll watch the movie and I'll be fine. But for most situations, most people don't have that, and I think for people who live in the cities, this just isn't smart, in my personal opinion. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm actually really glad that we're having this conversation. We were just discussing this today at my rehearsal for the show that I'm working on, and there's a lot of questions about vaccines and the Delta variant and these, rising and rising numbers. They still have a week to change their mind. There are whispers in Chicago of going back to, after the city of Chicago's mandate that, it's masks again.
Hmm.
There are the whispers and the general rumblings of we're going to be going back to masks. And this is not the place for us to get involved in that conversation. However, I love going to theaters. I want to go back to theaters. I think that if the safe move is to shut it down again, that's going to be the move. And I will watch Shang-Chi from home for $30. But what I want to talk about is that $30 access fee. So I think the assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dominic, or if we do know the answer to this, is that that $30 access fee that you're paying is that you're going to be watching that with your family. So you're offsetting the cost. Now, for you, the cost isn't offset at all. You're paying $30 to watch this movie, maybe 15 if you have your girlfriend over. Like, you're breaking it down. For me, I have a couple of friends who live nearby and we still can see each other safely. So when these, $20, $30 access fees were happening on Amazon Prime and Disney Plus, it wasn't that big of a deal for us because by the time that we split that $30 into four, that was less than the price of a movie ticket.
So I get that, and like when you bring up that opinion, that does kind of make sense because for obviously a family of 4 or 5 people going to see a movie, $30 is way cheaper, and they could do it at
Hmm.
their home. I guess my thought process is, well, okay, that's nice, but again, what about the single individuals like myself? And I know you mentioned like, oh well, your girlfriend would come over. Well, I'm not gonna make her pay 15. I'm not gonna be like, hey, well, we're gonna watch Shang-Chi. I need $15. If you want to sit here
Yeah.
for the next 2.5 hours, get out your credit card, PayPal me. Like I'm not gonna do that to her. That's just me, and like no one should do that. And that's where I think it gets ridiculous. I personally I like the way HBO Max does it, where you could do a yearly subscription of $100 and you can just get all the HBO Max content. Or if you do $150, you can get all the movie premieres. So you can get Dune and Godzilla vs Kong and The Matrix and Mortal Kombat, and all that awesome stuff. We just Suicide Squad. We watched that last episode, and we watched that because I watched that because of HBO Max. I didn't have to spend any other money. And I look at Disney and go, I know how much money you guys are making from this, but I'll tell you
Hmm.
straight up, if they said, if you pay me like $150 or $200 right now for the entire year, you will get every single early access movie for you to watch, period. And it's just there for you to stream. Have my money. And like that makes more sense because I think about all the early access movies that have come out with I think two or three Pixar films. Now we're gonna have two Marvel movies, and then they've had a couple other ones. And if they're all $30 a pop, 30 times five, that's already another $150.
Right.
And in my personal opinion, I it does break it down to how many times does a usual viewer actually do this? Like, does a viewer actually spend $30 to watch these movies? And my assumption is that some people are going to be like the Marvel fans who are only going to buy the Marvel one, or a lot of them are not going to be as hardcore as you and I, and are going to say, "Oh, if I just wait 2 3 months, Black Widow's going to be on Disney Plus, and I don't need to pay for it. Okay, I'm just going to wait." You know, and that's what
Hmm.
my assumption is that if you told me like, hey, for another $50 or $60 a year, we're just gonna give it all to you, like how many more people would do that? And that's honestly my big problem with it. I think HBO's route is I think smarter, and it's been a great success for them. I mean, even with the first few movies that they put on there, I'm going to use Godzilla vs. Kong as an example, is because we know the numbers for that movie. Is that even though it was on HBO Max and was streaming on Amazon in Europe, that movie still made over $400 million domestically. I think it's like 460 roughly. And that's more than Black Widow, by the way. Like almost 100,000 more than Black Widow, which is insane,
Yeah.
unbelievable. I still can't believe that. And that movie was a huge success, and let's be honest, critically wasn't that great. And I think there's just kind of goes to show, like I think Disney can look at that and go, I think we can make this work. Um, so for me, it's like again, it's if we're talking about the early access prices, I don't like them. I think they're ridiculous. When we could just go again, I'm lucky. I have a local theater and I can see movies for $5. So I'm really lucky
Right.
with that. But for some people, you know, I think it could be a lot more affordable, especially those of us who are still stuck at home and the job market isn't
Mhm.
great. I think they could be a little bit more courteous.
So for comparison, it's $149, 49.99 for a year, and it's 14.99 a month for HBO Max. And then
Mhm.
for Disney Plus, it's 7.99 or 79.99 for the year. Now obviously, you started adding up those numbers just really quickly in your head, and clearly you're already spending that much more if you're paying, $30 for that access.
Yeah.
And I think that you're right because, I haven't watched Cruella yet. I am not the
God, I love
biggest
that.
I'm not the biggest Emma Stone fan, but it did really well. And there are a lot of people who thought it was a really good movie, but it wasn't something that I was going to go spend $12 to go see in theaters or spend $30 to watch at home. I wasn't going to do it. Um, had it been free, probably I would have watched it. And I think that that speaks to this, right? So Disney is typically releasing their Disney releases as, that $30 charge. And then the Pixar movies have just been dropped, which I think is what happened with Luca. We got Luca for free, didn't we?
I know I watched it for free. I didn't know if it was early
Okay.
access. I know Rava and the Lost Dragon. That what?
Raya that was a $30 access fee.
Yeah, that one I know was on early access. Luca might have been
So
free. I don't remember if Soul was or wasn't.
and that was interesting, and that was where the conversation came when Soul came out. Is that Soul dropped for free, and I don't remember what the other Christmas movie was that had dropped around that time. That was the Disney movie, but Soul was free, and then there was another one that was $30. It might have been Mulan that I was thinking of because that had come
Yes.
out in about October, and then it was Soul after that, and then after Soul was Raya, and then after Raya was Luca, and they're like flip flopping between the Disney Pixar, and I really enjoyed Raya and the Last Dragon a lot, but I don't know that I needed to spend $30 on it. I think that I enjoyed Luca probably a little bit more, like at the end of the day.
Right.
Um, and I honestly, I absolutely agree with you. If they raise even the price to, even if they met HBO Max, let's say at 14.99 a month, and then provided all of the movies to us free, I would be okay with that. I'd pay the $14 a month. I'd pay the extra $7.
Yeah, absolutely. And you named like because I never saw Cruella, I never saw Mulan, I never saw Raya and the Last Dragon, and all three of those movies I didn't watch because it was $30. There was just no point. And and I would have loved to watch Black Widow at my house instead of going out to the theater. Um, just because again,
You
it's
gripe
more
about that.
convenient. I could just go downstairs. But it is what it is. I honestly, Disney is a powerhouse. They
They
care,
can do
but
whatever they want.
they know we're gonna buy it. They are obviously they're like the Nintendo of entertainment. They know we're gonna buy it. They're gonna put everything out at the full price. I do hope they do an alternative for Shang-Chi. I guess we're going to the theaters, and we'll see after that. Because Shang-Chi is September, Immortals is November,
Yep.
I think. And
Yeah.
I don't think they've officially said whether or not that one's theaters only. I'm going to assume if Shang-Chi does well, you're probably going to see Immortals in theaters only as well.
I mean, but again, that could shift. That could flip on a dime if the Delta variant keeps surging the way that it has been and people aren't getting vaccinated and they're not masking up and they're not taking care of themselves, that could we could be back in shutdown again and that could change. So, I mean, it's just kind of all up in the air and kind of flipping away from this a little bit. I'm just kind of curious to know what your thoughts are on Immortals as that's coming up.
I was actually going to ask you because the new trailer just dropped on that one, and I watched the trailer for it. Unlike the Shang-Chi one, which I took my dear sweet time with watching that trailer, I actually watched this one the second it came out. I don't know why. And so I think it looks
Oh, no.
I think it looks okay. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not familiar with these characters. The one highlight for me in the trailer is them strictly asking in the trailer, where were you guys when Thanos and the wars happened? Like, where were you guys? Why weren't you
Mhm.
doing anything? And then they strictly said like, we only react when told to, and we weren't told to react, so we didn't. And I like how they did address that, but
Mhm.
also that is really stupid. You know, like I
It's
and
lazy.
yeah, it is. It's kind of whatever. Um, and we're gonna when we get into our third story, I am going to get into my fears of the Marvel. This is actually going to all kind of tie into it, but um, and I really don't know of a way to not segue this any better. But Immortals, I think, is going. It's doing a thing that I don't like, and I'm gonna go into. Um, Actually, I'm not gonna go into the third story yet, but I'm going to say that the MCU was not the first cinematic universe, and I know
Oh God.
I know we've had a conversation about this, but the first cinematic, like actually the second cinematic universe, I forgot there was an original cinematic universe
Here we go.
With the Universal monsters of 1930s, Frankenstein, Wolfman. They all came together. That's a universe. But in the second one, from 1954 all the way to 1975, there is the original Toho verse, which was the original series of Godzilla movies. Yada yada yada. Hear me out. So the original, which is what it's called, the Showa era of movies, but we kind of call it the Toho verse because LOL, we're making fun of the MCU. Those movies all took place in the one, giant universe, one timeline, yada
Mhm.
yada yada, and they all gathered up to a movie from, I believe, 1969, LOL, called Destroy All Monsters. And that is the movie where they brought all the monsters together and they fought the big bad alien. It was the longest movie at the time. It had the biggest budget. Sound familiar? And I think you're knowing where I'm getting with this. And then when that movie did really well, instead of ending it like they should have and then rebooted the series later, they ended up making seven more movies, or I think six more movies. And it all went just downhill because what they started doing was they started having plot holes now. And then they also started having issues where they were responding to what was happening in the world and pop culture, which is how for the remaining movies in that universe, every single one of them had aliens, or one was about pollution and something like that was really relevant in the 70s at the time. And I'm looking at the MCU, and now we've had WandaVision, which was tackling grief and was a really really well done show, and then you have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where you have that ending scene that his ending rant, where at the time was like, oh, this is a really good speech, but you really felt like they were just kind of catering to pop culture because they were like, this is gonna get the kids. And when you really think about what that scene was doing and what he was really saying, didn't really work. Black Widow, for the most part, a lot of people aren't as up crazy about that movie. I really haven't seen that much positive about it. A lot of people seem to say it's good, or they're kind of like me and don't really like it. And then I'm also looking at Immortals, and I'm looking at what that trailer has, and I could be wrong. I also thought Thor Ragnarok was going to be a bad one, and boy was I wrong about that one. So but I look at what's happening with Immortals, and I fear that we're gonna have another second half of the Toho verse that just went downhill. And ultimately, it never led up to anything. It never went anywhere. They just kind of ended the series randomly with a movie and then called it a day. And that is kind of my fear for the Marvel universe. And I'm not saying Immortals looks bad. I just don't. As of right now, they're not really selling it, and some of the things that they're presenting in it kind of weird. Um, and quite frankly, now that they have Angelina Jolie in it, I feel like it's like kind of a joke now. It's like, oh, Angelina Jolie's in the MCU now, and I feel like, all right, all the kids, we should go over here. Like, we should start walking away. I don't know if that's just me. There's nothing wrong with
No.
her, but I feel like it's a joke.
Okay, so I'm actually really glad that you brought up Angelina Jolie because I wanted to talk about this. One of the great things about the original Thanos, I guess we'll call it the Thanos arc,
The
right?
Infinity Saga is what they call it.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Thank you. So the Infinity Saga is that they were pulling these actors who, I mean, you knew them, but they weren't like RDJ was not a megastar anymore. You know, he came out of left field. Chris Hemsworth out of left field. You have these actors that people are familiar with, but they're not like megastars in their own right. And the MCU made them megastars, in my opinion.
Right.
And I'm looking at, I actually pulled up the cast list because I wanted to look at it. And I knew Angelina Jolie was in it. So you have the top, the five top billed actors, at least on Google, are Kit Harington, who was Game of Thrones, Angelina Jolie, Richard Madden, also Game of Thrones, Gemma Chan, who just did Crazy Rich Asians, and Selma Hayek. Like, I I want them to keep surprising me with their casting choices. And this time I'm not surprised in a good way because I love Kit Harington. I love Gemma Chan. I love Richard Madden. Selma Hayek is great. I have feelings about Angelina Jolie. She's not my favorite person in the world. I think she's weird looking and I don't think she's incredible, but whatever. Um, she kind of looks like an
Oh.
alien.
Whoa.
I think she kind of, hi. I have feelings about her. I find her annoying. Um, But it's like, why do we need like the MCU doesn't need these people. Like we don't need Florence Pugh. I mean, we don't. I love Florence Pugh, which is Black Widow. Sorry, reaching backwards a little bit, but we didn't need her. The MCU was strong because they were telling good stories, not because they were paying actors crap tons of money to be in their movies or paying A-list stars to be in their movies. I mean, Tom Holland was also a nobody for all intents and purposes. And he's my favorite Spider-Man. I will say that. And that's an opinion. I know that people will have feelings about that, but he's my favorite Spider-Man. But even still, you go a little bit further down the list and you've got Kumail Nanjiani, who's been in a ton of stuff. He directed, co-starred, wrote, I think, in The Big Sick, which ended up being a huge success. It's just, I don't know, it's like, why do we need Angelina Jolie? Could we not find anybody else to play this part? Are they that concerned that people won't show up to see this movie? Why are they concerned?
At some point, I gotta wonder if they're just staring at each other like, who have we not gotten yet? And then they're just like, I mean, at the end of the day, when they brought in Owen Wilson, I was like, oh, that's awesome because Owen Wilson's been MIA for a while, right?
Right.
But like at the same time, you're also sitting here like, look at the original MCU, and besides Scarlett Johansson, like a lot of them were kind of nobody. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
Chris Evans was probably the most popular one at the time in a well-received way. Because I know Robert Downey Jr. obviously was, everyone knew who he was for the most part, but he wasn't well loved at that point. So
Right.
it is kind of a thing. I obviously we can go on forever when it comes to the MCU. I
Hey,
do.
is it okay if I go really quick?
Go on.
Okay, so the risk My fear is that the risk that they take by casting actors like this is that you're no longer seeing the character that they're portraying. So, like Gemma Chan is playing Cersei. So, a lot of people are not going to be seeing her playing Cersei. They're going to be seeing Gemma Chan. You have Angelina Jolie playing Thena. Nobody's going to see Thena. They're going to be seeing Angelina Jolie. Kit Harington is Black Knight.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to see Stark. Like, and that's not to say that they're not good actors. They're great actors. That's why they're popular. That's why they're A-listers.
Yeah.
Or that's why they're closer to A-listers, because Gemma Chan's not as high up, I think, technically. But they're very good at what they do. But the problem is when you become that good at what you do, it takes a really special person to be a character actor, and not everybody can do it, because the minute that you become recognizable, it's hard to separate you.
Yeah, and it's just to bring it back to my metaphor. I think you're starting to see the downhill, you know, and it's just kind of a
I hope
shame.
not.
But I know we don't want it to end. I do want to see where this all boils down to, but I can't help but sit here and also think about in 1988, if you looked at the music scene, I know, but if you looked at the music scene at the time, people loved crazy hair metal, bands like Def Leppard and Poison. Guns N' Roses wasn't a thing at the time, but they were about to come out and blow everyone's minds. And all of that. And it wasn't until 1992, I believe. I should have actually looked up the exact date, but there was a song that was premiered on MTV and with a music video that changed everything overnight. And everyone stopped looking at everything from the 80s and just immediately switched to what we recognize as the 90s. And I'm assuming you know what song it is. At least I hope you do.
I will let you have this moment just in case I am not aware of this. Just in case I have
Okay.
a different song in my head.
Well,
Just in case.
for reference, it is Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. And that is
Right.
the song that came out. It completely just changed everything. It took everyone stopped looking at Poison and people were looking at Pearl Jam now. And that
Right.
was a huge moment. And I can't help but look at the MCU and say, you guys are hair metal. And it's only a matter of when and what Smells Like Teen Spirit is going to happen. And I hope to God they can survive it, because I would love to see what happens with Kane the Conqueror, and I would love to see them actually hit an end point and not have this end like a fart like the original Toho verse did, essentially. I really do
Well,
hope they do this well. This well.
well, I have to. You're right. Everything's a pendulum. So eventually, the pendulum can only swing so far up. Eventually, it has. What goes up must come down.
Of course.
Um, and I am hoping, based on what we've received as far as, like the MCU TV shows, WandaVision was great. So was Falcon and Winter Soldier. So was Loki. Um, I really, really loved the Spider-Man movie that came out that started this whole thing. This whole new arc. I don't know what this new arc is being called, but for now, I'll just call it the Kang arc. Um, and we've been getting a lot of good stuff. And as we have said multiple times already on the show, and there are 4 episodes so far, MCU has a good track record of, even if their movie is not great, it's still it's still a good movie. A bad MCU movie is still a decent movie. It's still rewatchable, barely. um,
Mm.
Whether or not it's going to start coming crashing down with Immortals, or with Eternals. Sorry, not Immortals. With Eternals, I don't know. You're right. I didn't really want to see Thor Ragnarok. I wasn't really interested in it, and it blew me away. I'm not totally into Eternals. I don't know why we all of a sudden need to have gods involved in the universe. But they're well established in the comic verse. So we could be completely wrong. We came in after episode 3 of Loki really disappointed, and they turned the whole show around. So
Exactly. And I think the way you described it as a pendulum, You never know. Hopefully, though, they don't become their own Smells Like Teen Spirit, because that would be the worst if they ruined it for themselves. Um, but pretty much to jump
No,
into
no, there would be something worse.
what would be
The
worse?
DCEU, the DCEU coming out and taking them out. That would be worse because the DCEU is coming from way down low, way
Damn,
down low.
that would be quite the gut punch, but you never know. But the last story we have, and it's just going to be a really quick one because it's mostly just me, and I really want to talk about this, is that the writer, Max Bornstein, this actually happened a couple weeks ago. He made this statement, but Max Bornstein of Legendary Pictures, Warner Brothers, had stated that there are still plenty of ideas ready to go for more MonsterVerse movies. He is the writer of three of them, being the original Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, and then Godzilla vs. Kong. The only one he didn't write is the only one that really wasn't a commercial success, which is Godzilla King of the Monsters,
Okay.
which is a fan favorite. But other than that, he's still saying there's a lot of good ideas. So as of right now, still nothing official on what's exactly going to happen. Warner Brothers does have the right to do whatever they want with Kong. So if they wanted to make another King Kong movie, they absolutely could. Being the fact that the ending of Godzilla vs. Kong definitely left it open for Kong to have another adventure, is one thing. As of right now, the Legendary Pictures Warner Brothers does not have any more right to use Godzilla in any way, shape, or form. That contract is over, so whether or not they agree to that is one thing. But it is exciting for me because I obviously can't go an episode without talking about Godzilla in some way, shape, or form. So it's just a tradition at this point. But there is potentially for more movies. And I know, Kayla, you haven't really seen, I think you've seen only maybe one or two of those movies. I know you watched 2005's King Kong.
I
And
did.
if you were to explain it in possibly 2 minutes, what was that like?
Okay, so long story short, my boyfriend and I started to watch King Kong because you recommended it and you had watched Field of Dreams, which we're not going to have time for,
Yeah.
whatever. And I went in blind. All I knew was Jack Black was in it. And I was like, that should be interesting. Maybe. I don't know. And so I did it. And the first hour was completely unwatchable. Completely. Couldn't do it. And we turned off the movie. The next day I talked to you and you said that it was a love letter to 30 cinema. It was a love letter to the Monsterverse and to specifically the 1930s Godzilla, correct?
King Kong. 1930s King Kong.
King Kong. Sorry, not
Yeah.
Godzilla. Sorry, King Kong. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish the movie because I said I would finish the movie and talk about it. I did it. And the last hour, 2 hours, hour and a half, it was the weirdest shift in my brain because having the understanding that the acting, the writing, the producing, everything was a love letter to 1930 cinema turned it into like this masterpiece. It was very weird for me. It was a very weird experience.
Well, I am happy that you did enjoy it at the end of the day. Obviously, that movie is well before the MonsterVerse ever became a thing. That was Peter Jackson's just goal, though. He always wanted to remake King Kong, and he literally remade King Kong, and even including all the scenes that the 1930s movies cut out. So, hey, I'm happy you enjoyed it. And I know you kind of
My
watched it
turn
just.
next.
What was that?
It says my turn next.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get me. So yeah, we're gonna start doing a thing. We're gonna start recommending each other watching movies. I wish we had more time to dive into King Kong, but obviously we went a little long today. And an episode that we definitely didn't know what we were going to talk about. So I am definitely very impressed with what we did. But that being
Yeah.
said, we are out of time. This has been the N.E.R.D. Film and TV podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, of course, like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. Give us some topics you want to talk about. Give us movies you want us to watch. Tell us what you're excited for. If you want to follow us on Twitter, there is the thing right under me, as well as our Instagram link on the other side under Kayla. There is you can subscribe to us on Spotify and, of course, Apple Music. Unfortunately, we can't link anything yet because we don't have enough followers. So follow us and like us and all that stuff and leave the good reviews. Also,
Join us.
if you
Join us.
want to make your own podcast, we use Buzzsprout. And if you are watching us on YouTube, there is a link in the description below that you can click on. And if you're telling us, or you're telling yourself, hey, I can do this better than you guys, your production crap, your personality is horrible, I want to do this better, well, go ahead and make your own podcast. Just click that thing below, and you could join up on Buzzsprout, and you can have your own fun conversations about movies, TVs, sports, or just a one-man show about corn. Not the band, the food. Other than that, Kayla, is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, watch King Kong and join us. Follow us. Do it better than us. Show us that you can do it better than us. Maybe we'll learn something from you.
Oh yeah, love learning. Anyway, nerd out, everybody.
Nerd out.